Hello, this is Julie McFarlane, co-founder of Can't Buy My Silence. The second in our video series on racism and NDAs is made by Deepa Mattoo. Deepa is the executive director of the Barbara Schlifer Commemorative Clinic in Toronto, which provides assistance and support to women and gender diverse individuals experiencing violence. Deepa is an accomplished lawyer and dedicated to work on social justice and equity issues, and this is what she had to say about NDAs.
We see them in various different structures and disclosure, as we call it, in the clinic setting. We see them when a survivor comes to us and is seeking help, and sometimes saying that I am precarious. I have a precarious status. I want to apply for some form of relief, which could be, in most of the cases that the clinic sees, it's humanitarian compassionate ground application. So I need to file an application, but I also have been living here as a migrant worker or caregiver, and this is what my situation has been. And it's in those situations that we would see it. In the cases of people who are precariously employed in precarious status, we actually see when they come to us and they experience sexual harassment, and we try to get them some relief from their employers or ex-employers most of the time. I want to tell you, we are talking about NDAs being offered with some very, very bad. I know I use the word unrealistic. It's not even unrealistic. It's like almost like illegal or conditions being imposed, which are basically not even really real conditions. But at the same time, the amount being offered in these settlements is very low. We are talking about such small amounts that you get surprised that for these few $100s or few $1,000s that you're offering someone for a wrong that was committed against their person, when their personhood and their agency and their capacity to work in this world again, and would have impacted them for their life. That's what the offers are. So the one which is overreach from my perspective, which I find is overreach, and when I use the word illegal, I think is when you're asking someone to do an NDA and say, you won't take any, you won't be able to take any future action or future disclosure in a jurisdiction where Canada has no capacity to actually, have any kind of legal enforcement. You can't actually ask anyone to let go of your basic right to bring a criminal case forward. Like that is not necessarily legally a plausible condition that can be imposed on someone, but we have seen those kind of conditions imposed, and it's like taking advantage of someone's lack of uh, knowledge or lack of resources. When you don't have access to resources and you are really experiencing a lot of trauma, you've already have been harassed, you want at times just things to end, and you want to move on, and you want to get a fresh start from that particular situation. And I think all of those vulnerabilities are taken advantage of when it comes to marginalized people and racialized people, or people with lack of access to resources. I think the reality remains that vulnerable workers and migrant workers whose immigration status is so closely tied to the power imbalance that they experience, when they are offered these kind of sham agreements, which have defects, or which are not, which are, as I said earlier, which has impositions which are beyond the jurisdiction in which these are being signed. In all of those kind of situations, I think the reality of their immigration status plays a huge role in that power imbalance, which is that someone looking at them knows that this person doesn't have a lot of control over their immigration status, I will ask them to sign this. And if they don't sign it, I will come up with some other ways to exert my control. Around what should be done and what are things that can be done around the situation of NDAs and migrant workers and or non-status folks or precarious status folks, especially when there are survivors of violence. I think of a few things which are really important, and I would start with our own type, which means lawyers. I would start with asking lawyers to be very well educated about if you have a client who comes to you with a precarious status and is finding herself in a situation of being given an NDA, which has, even if the amount is small, but the pieces included are beyond your own understanding or capacity, please seek out help and support, and check which this country is around which these kind of conditions are being imposed, that she can never file a case and never make a complaint, and includes criminal, civil, administrative, all kinds of impositions. Please don't advise her to sign it unless and until you have either sought help for yourself and gotten all the education that you needed to advise her, or try to refer her out to someone else. So one of the safest thing that I advise all your lawyers I work with is to say, if you see any other country mentioned, just say, I am not the lawyer called to the bar in that jurisdiction to practice. I cannot tell you what you should be doing about this. It's really important to get advice of an expert. Another really important thing is to think about what kind of awareness can be spread in communities which are ethno-specific and speak different languages around this issue. But we need this to be done in multiple languages. We need this to be done in multiple spaces with ethno-specific communities so that they can actually engage with this topic. I think the migrant workers community need to engage with this topic and think about what is the implication. And then lastly, I think we need to figure out awareness campaigns which can inform migrant workers of their rights, and as well as the available resources that are available to them if they can access them. Remember, we are talking about, unfortunately, hierarchy of different statuses. There's some people cannot actually access resources because their status is so precarious that they feel that accessing resources in itself, their status becomes a barrier. But if they can, then finding the resources for them and finding the right support for them. Those are the things that are coming to my mind, including the fact that eventually, hopefully, we will have some real clear, strict guidelines on when NDAs cannot be required, and if required, then there's strict guidelines on what kind of NDAs can be asked to be signed.